Okay, we'll see how it's moving. Okay, so we said that the Mishnah says the mitzvah of covering the blood does not apply to sacrifices. The question is, why not? You could put it on the altar and then and you could scrape it off. How do we know you could scrape it off? Because we said you could have a knife and you could scrape off the blood and then put that blood on the floor and then cover it up with the dirt. So that's what we said. So Hachanami, we said 2 lines on the bottom. Nigrar v'nixiles. Why don't you just scrape it off and do the mitzvah of kisudam? So now we know that there are 2 types of ways to sanctify something. There's a monetary value of it, and there is the thing itself. So now the Gemara says, if you actually are talking about what we thought we were talking about, sacrificing an animal, so you're right. You slaughter it, and you could take the blood on the altar. You could scrape it off, and
are you on Zoom?
I am.
Okay, I'll tell Donna.
Tell Donna. But I don't want her to stop. She's making you a nice dinner. While she's cooking. Multitasking. Yeah. So if we're doing the kachem mizbeach, so then you could scrape it off, and you could do the mitzvah of kisui adam. So, however, when our Mishnah said that it does not apply by sacrifices, what it meant was that's when you sanctify an animal, not for it, but for its monetary worth. So it still has a level of holiness, but you're not slaughtering that animal. So you're offering its monetary worth. And therefore, since it's prohibited from benefit, its slaughtering is considered a slaughtering, which is not going to lead to consumption. And the assumption that is that we're going like Rabbi Shimon, that says a slaughtering that does not lead to consumption is not a good slaughtering. And that's what the Mishnah meant. So on that, the Gemara says, okay, but we have ways to get out of everything, right? So one of the ways to get out of everything is just to redeem it. So the next page is Velif for Kinu. Why don't you slaughter the animal, and it's prohibited from benefit. So redeem it, remove its sanctity, and then you'll be able to do the mitzvah of, then you'll be able to eat it. And now, since it's fit for consumption, so then you're going to be able to do the mitzvah of kisudam v'lechsinu, and then cover it up with blood. It says the Gemara, not so fast. Be'inon ha'amada v'ha'aracha, special requirement that you have to stand up the animal and have the Kohen evaluate it before you redeem it. So you don't redeem it until you stand it up and evaluate it. Now the problem is, lo and behold, if it's dead, it's not standing. Yeah, it's not standing, so you can evaluate it dead, but that doesn't go. So we have now 2 things. We have, first of all, the slaughtering has to be fit for consumption, and we have to have also this requirement of standing and evaluating. So now we're going to get stuck a little bit in the different opinions, because those 2 stipulations are not going to flow with any opinion. So the Gemara says, "Ukiman." Who's his opinion like? Ikar of Meir the Amar HaKol Hayu Bichlal Hamadav Aracha. If you want to say it's Rav Meir, who says anything's included in standing up and evaluating, meaning he holds that that this animal, that you could evaluate an animal that's been offered with this sanctity. Rav Meir says you could do it, but the problem is Rav Meir says that Ha'amar shchita she'ein haruya shmei shchita hi. But according to him, then you have to get into this whole mess, because he holds if you slaughter an animal and it is not fit for consumption, that's okay for the mitzvah of covering the blood. It's only Reb Shimon who says it's not good. So according to Rav Meir, you don't need to come on to this whole thing. The whole problem was that it's not fit for consumption. Rav Meir doesn't need that. So therefore, according to Rav Meir, kachim should be fine, sacrifice should be fine to do the mitzvah of kisui hadam. Now, what do you want to tell me? Maybe it's Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon. Should we cover up their blood? No. So Reb Shimon Damar is a joke. Reb Shimon Damar shchita she'ein haruya lo shmei shchita. If it's Reb Shimon who says that a slaughtering that doesn't lead to consumption is not a valid slaughtering, and therefore this animal you can't do the mitzvah of kisui hadam, says the Gemara, ha'amar lo hayu bichlal hamadav aracha. According to him, according to Reb Shimon, this animal is not going to be included in standing up and evaluating. 1 second. So that's good. And then the Mishnah could be him. 1 second. 1 second. Well, that's good though. 1 sec. He holds that these animals that are sanctified monetarily, they don't. The animals that are sanctified monetarily, so they don't have this requirement, and in fact, you could evaluate it. According to him, even after you slaughtered it, you could still evaluate it, and therefore it could be our Mishnah. So once again, we're stuck. If it's Rav Meir, so then he holds any slaughtering, even if it's not fit for consumption, is good. So for sure, sacrifices should be okay. And if you hold it's Reb Shimon who holds that a slaughtering that's not fit for consumption, and therefore we establish the Mishnah to be a case of an animal that was monetarily sanctified, meaning a lower level of sanctity, and we thought that was the Mishnah, but Rabbi Shimon himself holds that you don't have this requirement having to stand it up. Even if it's dead, you could evaluate it, and therefore the Mishnah still could be, therefore, according to Rabbi Shimon, kudshim, sacrifices, would still be fit to cover over the blood. So says the Gemara, it's not Rav Meir and it's not Reb Shimon. Who could our Mishnah be? Rav Yosef, Rebbehi. So as sometimes happens, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who wrote down the Mishnayos, so sometimes he's going to be a third opinion. He's going to take two opinions and combine them, and that's his own opinion. So it's Rebbehi. V'nasiv la aliba de Tanai. So, and he went according to two different Tanaim. V'shchida she'en haruya sar like Reb Shimon. He holds that a slaughtering has to be fit for consumption, and therefore sacrifices, therefore the sacrifice that's a monetary sacrifice is not fit for consumption. And also, behamada v'haracha savar l'Rav Meir. When it comes to evaluation, he holds like Rav Meir that it has to be able to be stood up. So therefore, there's no permutation according to Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi that kachin would be liable in kisui adam. Because once again, what are we talking about? If we're talking about, so we said before, if it's an actual sacrifice, you get to scrape off the blood, you're good to go. The Mishnah says it, by sacrifices, there is no mitzvah of covering over the blood. That must be referring to a lower level of sanctity, and the slaughtering is not fit for consumption, and also you cannot redeem it. So therefore you are stuck. There's no way in that case to have the mitzvah, and therefore when the Mishnah says that there's no mitzvah by sacrifices, it does not mean actual sacrifices put on the altar that you could scrape the blood off and cover it over. It's referring to a lower level of sanctity, and it goes like this hybrid of opinions of Reb Meir and Reb Shimon. Maybe the whole Mishnah is Reb Shimon, who says that a slaughtering that's not fit for consumption is not considered a slaughtering. The shiny hacha, but here it's different. The amar kra, the shafach, the kisa. There's another requirement. The Torah tells you have to spill the blood and then cover it over. So all you're lacking is these two things. In our case, you're lacking a third thing. You have to redeem the animal. But the Torah says, "Misha ena mechusar ela shvicha v'kisui yatsa zeh shemechusar shvicha hidiya v'kisui." Says the Gemara, in order to have the requirement of covering the blood, of the mitzvah of covering over the blood, you have to only be lacking two things: blood spilling and covering it over. If you have to do another thing, such as redeeming the animal from its sanctity, so that's not included in this mitzvah of the Torah, and therefore that's what we're talking about. Why there's no mitzvah of this lower level of sanctity when you sanctify the animal for its monetary worth. It's now prohibited from benefit, and since the only way to do the mitzvah is going to be to redeem it, but the problem is, according to this answer of the Gemara, that's not included because you only have to have two things: shafach v'kisa. If you have to redeem it, it's not included. So yatsa zeh shemechusar shvicha pediya v'kisui. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Once you came all the way onto this answer, the hash of the asis lachi afilu tema kachem mizbeach. You could even say that actual sacrifices, the highest level of sanctity, when you put the animal onto the altar, even that is excluded from the mitzvah. Why? Misha ena mechusar ela shvicha v'kisui yatsa zeh shemechusar shvicha greira v'kisui. What did we say? If you put the animal actually on the altar, that case, what do? You have to scrape the blood off and then cover it over. But once you just told me that when the Torah says spilling blood and covering over, and any other step is not included in the mitzvah, well, in this case, you have scraping off the blood. That's a third step. So therefore, you spill the blood, you scrape it off, and then you cover it over. That's no good either. So basically, at this point, we have our Mishnah says sacrifices are not included in the mitzvah. Up until this point, we said it's only one kind of sacrifice. When you offer its monetary value, that case is not going to be good, either because we go like Rebbe, or because you have to redeem it, and that's excluded. Once you said that second answer, now we're going to go back and say that even an animal that's fully sanctified on the highest level of sanctity is also going to be excluded from the mitzvah. You want to stop here? Okay.